I never imagined the day I'd become a father would feel like drowning. I spent 9 months working nights, sacrificing sleep and sanity, because that's what I thought love required. My girlfriend, Rachel, was the dream I chased: wild dark hair, eyes full of fire, and that stubborn little pout that made me want to protect her from everything in the world. When she told me she was pregnant, I felt a burst of purpose, like I'd just been plugged into the universe. Then the bills hit. Prenatal vitamins, doctor appointments, baby furniture, rent creeping higher every month. I picked up overtime wherever I could. The guys at work joked that I lived at the loading dock instead of my apartment. I laughed with them, even though my legs shook from exhaustion and caffeine had become my blood type. Rachel didn't laugh, though. She said I wasn't there. She said she felt alone. She said I was turning into a stranger. I reminded her this was all for our son. She reminded me that the baby needed more than money. The arguments became routine, background noise to a love collapsing in slow motion. Still, I believed we were okay. I held her belly at night, whispering promises to the tiny life inside: "Daddy's gonna take care of you." She smiled sometimes, but a veil kept slipping between us. She guarded her phone like it was nuclear launch codes. When I walked into the room, she'd slam the screen face down, acting innocent in a way that felt guilty. I tried to convince myself she was just stressed. Pregnancy messes with emotions. She needed comfort, not paranoia. So I worked harder, trying to earn back the version of us that felt simple and safe. Then one cold Wednesday morning, after a graveyard shift, as I was locking up the warehouse, my phone buzzed. Water broke. Going to the hospital. My heart exploded. I didn't even think about the metal cart rolling away or the fact that my manager was yelling behind me. I just grabbed my keys and flew into my car, tires screaming across asphalt still slick from last night's rain. Traffic had never looked so cruel. Red lights mocked me. Brake lights stretched like hell's own Christmas decorations. Every minute felt like a personal attack. I kept calling Rachel. No answer. I tried texting her mother. Nothing. It felt like the world muted itself. By the time I skidded into the hospital parking lot, the sun was already climbing the buildings, turning the glass into blinding gold shards. I sprinted through automatic doors, practically crashing into the reception desk. "Rachel Carter," I gasped. "She's having my baby." The nurse tapped at her computer. Her expression shifted into something unreadable. "She's already in delivery," she said. Relief washed through me, until the next sentence. "You'll have to wait. The father is already with her." I laughed. A raw, confused sound. "I'm the father. I'm her boyfriend. Let me in." She didn't move to unlock any doors. She didn't smile. She just stared, like she was evaluating if I belonged in the same ecosystem as her. Her partner checked in with her earlier. "He's with her now." Her voice carried a quiet sort of finality. "Partner." That word thudded in my skull. "No. You don't understand. This is my child. She wants me there. Please." I was begging, and it tasted like rust in my mouth. She gave a polite but firm nod toward the chairs. "Have a seat, sir. Someone will update you soon." I didn't sit. I paced like an animal locked in a cage. My hands sweated. My lungs stuttered. Every door that beeped open made my head snap around, hoping for a glimpse of someone who could explain why my life suddenly felt hijacked. After what felt like a century, a nurse stepped out of the delivery room area. She held a swaddled bundle. I didn't breathe. In slow motion, I saw a man trailing behind her. Broad shoulders. Confident walk. A face I recognized instantly from the photos buried deep in Rachel's Instagram past. Her ex. He leaned in close to the nurse to see the baby better. He smiled like he'd won something. He kissed the baby's forehead. He whispered something that made her blush. Then the door swung open again, and Rachel was wheeled out on a bed, pale but glowing. Not once did she look around for me. My chest caved inward like a building imploding. The mix of heartbreak and fury that filled me was chemical, toxic, uncontainable. The ex passed her the baby. She stared at their child like she had everything she wanted right in front of her. They didn't see me. I was invisible. Like I had never existed. Like the months I bled for her were just a footnote in someone else's story. My fists clenched until my nails cut into skin. Rage and confusion battled inside me, each more vicious than the other. I stumbled backward, bumping into a wall. Nurses moved around me like I was furniture. That was the moment I realized. Rachel had written me out of the script. While I was breaking my back to build a future, she invited the past to steal it. A security officer walked over, hand hovering near his belt, suspicious of my trembling anger. "Sir," he said carefully, "you need to calm down." Calm? My entire world was burning down, and he wanted calm? I locked eyes with Rachel one more time. She finally glanced up. For a second, our eyes met. She froze, shock flickering like a glitch. Then she turned away. I walked out of the hospital before anyone could see the tears boiling in my eyes. Not a single person stopped me. Not a single person cared. They didn't know the truth. Yet, next time I walked through those doors, I promised myself it wouldn't be as the forgotten man. I would come back ready for war. Rain hammered the windshield while I sat in my car outside the hospital, staring at the steering wheel like it might give me answers. My palms still throbbed where my fingernails carved little crescents of fury into my skin. A baby was born today. My baby. And I was treated like the intruder. The image of her ex holding my son gnawed at my ribs like a starving animal. He looked proud. Comfortable. Like he belonged there. The way he cupped that tiny head as if he had a right to it made my stomach churn. I punched the steering wheel. Horn blared, rage hissed out of me like steam from a cracked pipe. I tried calling Rachel again. Straight to voicemail. After a while the rain slowed, turning the world soft and blurry. I forced myself back inside, because leaving wasn't an option. My son was still in that building. At the front desk, a new nurse greeted me. I asked, politely this time, to see Rachel. She checked some notes, frowned, then disappeared into the back. That waiting felt like standing on the edge of an active volcano, hoping it wouldn't be your day to die. Finally, a door opened. Not Rachel. Not a nurse. Her ex. He stepped out onto the tile with the casual swagger of someone who thought the whole universe owed him applause. He wore a smug little half-smile, the kind that should come with a warning label. "Oh. You," he said. My jaw tightened so hard I heard something in my neck crack. "What the hell are you doing here?" I growled. He crossed his arms and leaned back against the wall like he had purchased it. "I'm here for my son," he said, the words thick with arrogance. The oxygen felt suddenly poisonous. "He's not your son." A shrug. "Rachel disagrees." That sentence hit like a shovel to the chest. "You weren't even around," I spat. "You left her." "I'm the one who." He cut me off with a smirk. Funny thing about history. It has a way of repeating itself. The urge to break his nose pulsed through my veins. Years of anger therapy videos told me to breathe. Punching him would only give Rachel a reason to shut me out completely. The door behind him opened again. Rachel appeared, cradling the baby. Her cheeks were flushed with exhaustion. She had that fragile new mother glow I'd fantasized about seeing. Except her eyes avoided mine like I was a beam of UV radiation. "Can we talk?" My voice cracked. She grimaced. "Not now." "What's going on, Rachel? Why was he with you? Why can't I be there?" The ex placed a possessive hand on her shoulder, staking a claim. She flinched, almost imperceptibly, but enough that I noticed. Then came the dagger. "We're a family. He's the father." The entire hallway tilted. My knees wobbled. The ground swallowed all sound except those words looping like a broken record. I forced out a whisper. We did a test earlier, Rachel. You said?" "This is what I want," she snapped. A nurse stepped between us like a barricade. "Please, sir, give the mother some space." Mother. Father. Words thrown around like property deeds. I stared at the baby. Tiny fists. Squinting eyes. The same dark freckles on his nose that I have. "He's mine," I said softly, almost to myself. Rachel hugged the baby tighter, turning away from me. I saw tears clinging to her lashes. Guilt? Fear? I couldn't tell. But she refused to meet my gaze. They rolled the baby back into the room. Door clicked shut. Silence pounded. The new nurse approached. She looked younger, less trained in hiding empathy. "Sir," she murmured quietly, glancing over her shoulder to make sure no one was listening, "there's something you should know." My pulse jumped. She changed the paperwork. Last minute. The father's name, it used to say yours. Shock froze me. "What do you mean used to?" I breathed. "She asked us to update it," she whispered, "to list the ex instead. She said you wouldn't want to be involved." My body went cold, then hot, then electric with fury. She told them I didn't want my child. She erased me from the most important document of my life. I stumbled back outside, gulping the air like I had been underwater too long. Rage boiled high enough that my thoughts flashed white. There was only one question left. Why? My phone buzzed. A notification. A picture message. Rachel smiling in a hospital bed. Her ex sitting beside her. Caption. "Our little family is complete." People were already commenting congratulations. Celebrating. The walls of my world cracked apart. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I didn't storm back inside. I drove home fueled by a single promise pulsing through my brain. If she wanted a war, I'd give her the kind she would regret forever. The apartment was too quiet when I stepped inside, like the silence already knew something I didn't. Our half-assembled crib stood in the middle of the living room, mocking me with its unfinished promise. Tiny socks hung over the arm of the couch like helpless little ghosts. Everything reminded me of the future I thought I was building. I moved through the rooms on autopilot, opening drawers, scanning surfaces, searching for anything that explained the gut punch of the hospital. Rage guided my hands. Pain guided my eyes. Her phone charger. Her sweater that still smelled like vanilla lotion. A sonogram photo pinned to the fridge with a smiley face magnet. In the picture, she had written, "Hello Daddy." A heart. That thing inside my chest cracked again. I tried to remember the last time she called me that. Weeks? Months? Long before she started shielding her screen like I was a stalker. Her laptop sat on the table. For a moment, I hesitated. Privacy still meant something to me. Then that image of the ex kissing my son flashed again, and hesitation died. The login was easy. A password she once shared proudly, trusting me completely. Her email was a graveyard of secrets. At first, I saw nothing out of place. Work talk, newsletters, random online shopping receipts. Then I clicked into the archived folder. Hundreds of messages. Names I didn't recognize. Conversations that twisted my stomach into a tight knot. Meetups. Reservations. Last night was amazing. Compliments about her body, her laugh, her lips. Months of lies spliced between doctor appointments she claimed I made her miss with my long shifts. Screenshots of men she flirted with. Photos I never wanted to see. A chain labeled Jason. Her ex. Reading their messages felt like swallowing glass. I still love you. I messed up leaving. I need you with me. He doesn't get it. Come to the ultrasound. He is too busy working anyway. One message from her. He only cares about money now. You care about me. The irony almost made me laugh. Money that paid for her vitamins, rent, doctor visits, food, comfort. Money that came from my bones grinding down at work. Jason wrote, "You know he will freak if he sees me holding the baby first." Followed by a winking emoji. She replied, "Let him. He should have been here. He is not father material. Not father material." Those words sucked the breath out of my lungs. A surge of anger lifted me from the chair, sent me pacing the tiny kitchen. I wanted to punch the wall until my knuckles turned to dust. I wanted to scream loud enough to crack windows. Shame and fury mixed together into something radioactive. Her next message snapped me back. "I already changed the certificate. I want our baby to have a real dad." Real dad. Fake fiancé. Fake love. Real betrayal. The scent of stale coffee filled my nose. My vision tunneled. Every heartbeat sounded like a hammer against steel. This wasn't just cheating. She planned my erasure. I screenshot every message. Downloaded every attachment. Saved everything to a private drive with a single folder name. Custody. A new idea ignited. A vindictive, blazing star inside a night that had gone pitch black. She thought she could replace me like a broken chair. She thought my love made me weak. Soon everyone would know the truth. Her parents. Her friends. Jason. The court. First step, proof of paternity. Second step, expose the circus she turned my life into. Final step, take back what she stole. Phone buzzed. Rachel. A text. "We need to talk. Tomorrow morning. Alone." Cold satisfaction replaced the hurt. There would be talking. Except I wasn't going there alone. Evidence would accompany me like invisible bodyguards. I stared at the empty crib. My fists loosened. My pulse steadied. This wasn't defeat anymore. This was the first move. Rachel had declared war in a hospital hallway. Tomorrow, the battlefield would shift. She wanted a family without me. My revenge would be giving her exactly that. A family forever missing its real father. They say revenge tastes sweetest when it's patient. I learned that taste on my tongue the week I stopped being a ghost. First thing, DNA. I didn't trust promises or feelings anymore. I wanted hard things, numbers, dates, ink, pixels. I went back to the hospital with the screenshot folder heavy in my pocket and a calm face that didn't match the storm inside. The lab tech looked at me like I was another anxious father. I paid cash, signed forms, and watched a nurse take a tiny vial of blood. The world reduced to sterile tubes and barcode stickers. When you want truth, you step into fluorescent light and wait. While the lab did its quiet work, I started pulling at threads. The nurse who'd told me Rachel changed the paperwork, she wasn't the only one. Another hospital clerk remembered a late-night call, a shaky voice asking someone to fix it. An admin in medical records admitted the digital log showed an edit at 2:14 a.m., the kind of thing that leaves a footprint. I printed everything. Emails. Time-stamped edits. Screenshots of messages where Rachel joked about getting it all right. I organized every scrap like a prosecutor building a case. Then I walked into her mother's house with evidence in hand and no mercy in my head. Her family's faces when I showed them the messages, that slow, sinking disbelief, was the first real victory. They asked questions I'd been dying to hear asked. Why change the name? Why shield her phone? Why hide the X at the delivery? They defended her at first. Then one by one, corners of her story collapsed under the weight of printed words. Her father's voice in the end sounded like a stranger. You did what? Her mother covered her mouth. Rachel's sister didn't speak. The family retreated into agreement and blame where before they had been allies for Rachel's secrecy. Next I handed copies to Jason. Standing in his driveway, I watched the careful veneer of his life crack. He'd smiled politely when I first met him at some party months ago. Up close, you could see how practiced that smile was, the one that hides selfishness. He read the messages I'd saved. His jaw tightened. The proud swagger deflated. He tried to laugh it off, to say he didn't know, but when I played him the voicemail, the hospital admins recorded confirmation of the paperwork edit, something in his face crumbled. He told me to leave his house. Jason's public unraveling was small and private, but that was the point. Everything she'd tried to keep tidy she'd now be forced to watch come apart in front of the people who mattered, family, the man she loved once, and the man she betrayed. The DNA took 3 days. 3 days of waking and going to sleep with the same thought, proof. When the lab called, my hands were steady. I listened to the technician read the result like it was a verdict. Paternity confirmed, she said. The word hit like a bell. Not relief exactly, relief was softer, it was more like vindication forged into steel. I tucked the lab report into my folder and started writing legal names and dates onto the corner of the page like a map. I hired a lawyer. I told her everything. She didn't flinch. We'll file for custody, she said. And we'll include the forged documents and the evidence of contact. She sounded like a machine hosing down fire with law. Court moves slowly if you let it. I didn't. We filed emergency paperwork to establish paternity and temporary custody. We attached the edit log, the screenshots, the text threads showing an ongoing affair, and statements from hospital staff who'd seen the changes. We asked for the hospital to preserve all records. We asked for supervised visitation for Rachel. We asked the judge to consider what it looked like when a mother tried to hand her child to a man she'd rekindled with, erasing the man who actually showed up and paid for the vitamins, the crib, the midnight runs for formula. The hearing room smelled like old coffee and public fate. Rachel sat pale, clutching a tissue, while Jason looked small and angry. Her parents were there, eyes rimmed red. I presented the evidence like a teacher reading a student's confession out loud. The judge read a few pages and set a temporary order. The child would remain with me while we sorted the legal details. No overnight visits for Rachel until the court could evaluate the risks. I watched the color drain from her face in slow motion. It was a victory measured in paperwork and court stamps. But revenge lives in the small public moments too, when the office where she worked got a copy of the filed affidavit and HR called a meeting, when a mutual friend, who had congratulated her publicly on social media, quietly retracted a comment after I sent a factual message, when Jason's messages to her stopped, the silence louder than any excuse. She tried to make amends. She texted, then called. The tone I used to crave in her voice, soft, contrite, pleading, now only made my resolve harder. I could have burned everything in a show of fury. I could have screamed her name into the streets. Instead I used the quietest, meanest tactic possible. I rebuilt a life that she couldn't manipulate. Months later, friends noticed the change in me. I slept through the night more. I learned the silent choreography of feeding, of diaper changes, of rocking at 3 in the morning when the world felt wrong. The baby, my son, learned my voice. He learned my scent. He learned that when I said I'd be there, I meant it. Rachel tried to come back into the picture. She knocked on my apartment door one rainy afternoon, cheeks hollow with regret. Her voice was a cracked record of apologies and I messed up and I was scared. I met her on the threshold. The baby was in his stroller beside me, chin up, eyes bright with trust. He reached a tiny hand toward her and I felt a stab of something that was almost pity. She asked about co-parenting. She asked to visit. She asked for forgiveness. I handed her a thin envelope. The papers inside were simple and legal, the finalized custody agreement, signed and notarized, a visitation schedule that made room for supervised visits, and, beneath them, the printed affidavit she'd begged me to ignore when I first walked into her mother's house. She scanned it. Her lip trembled. She looked up at me. "Please," she whispered. I let the silence hang long enough for it to hurt. "You replaced me once," I said softly, and I meant it to hurt without show. "I won't let you replace what's mine again." I shut the door behind her. She stood on the stairwell for a moment, rain soaking her hair, and then she turned away. The finality of that click echoed. It wasn't a victorious shout. It was a measured, iron sentence. It said, "I showed up. You didn't choose me. I chose myself. A year later, when someone asks if I regret anything, I tell them the same thing. I regret that it had to hurt to teach me how strong I could be. I don't regret the war, I regret giving anyone the power to erase me. The baby sleeps in the other room now. I watch him breathe sometimes, like he is the only holy thing left in my world. He doesn't know the headlines, the edits, the text messages. He only knows the man who whispers stories to him at night and who will be there when his first tooth cuts or his first bike wobbles. When Rachel's calls come, they are sparse and quiet. Once, she asked if she could sing him a lullaby over the phone. I let her. I listen on speaker, careful. Her voice is weak but true. For a second, a single small second, I remember the woman I loved and the future we almost had. Then I look at my son, his chest rising and falling, and I know the true revenge was never to destroy her. It was to become the kind of man she said I couldn't be, steady, visible, and unafraid to claim what was mine. When she shows up again months later, begging for more, I hand her the copy of the custody order and the key to the part of his life she's allowed to enter. She looks at the papers. She looks at me. You replaced me once, she says, voice full of pleading. I slide the legal pad back across the table. I didn't replace you, I answer. I replaced the lie. I close the door.